All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving headfirst into some serious high-stakes geopolitical drama.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is. It is. We're talking about that crazy negotiation between former President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy.
Back in February 2025.
Yeah, February 2025. We've got this expert analysis of the transcript of their conversation.
Very cool.
And let me tell you, it's fascinating.
It's like a master class in power dynamics.
And high-stakes negotiation.
Exactly.
It's really crucial to keep in mind the context here. This isn't just any meeting, right?
Yeah.
It's February 2025.
Right.
The conflict in Ukraine has been going on for years.
Egging on, yeah.
Dragging on and on. Both sides are desperate for a solution.
Oh, yeah. The pressure is definitely on. And the analysis really digs into how both leaders kind of approach this critical moment. And their personalities, let me tell you, could not be more different.
They're very different personalities.
On one hand, you've got Trump, and the analysis highlights his, well, let's just say his very Trump-esque comments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes. The analysis points to his tendency to really dominate conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And control the narrative.
Control the narrative, exactly.
There's actually a quote where Trump says, "The war wouldn't have happened if I was still in charge."
Oh, wow.
And this isn't just, classic Trump boasting.
Right.
It's a very calculated move to put Zelenskyy on the defensive right from the start.
It's like he's trying to establish, dominance before the negotiations even really begin.
Exactly. By implying that Zelenskyy is somehow responsible for the situation, Trump is subtly shifting the power dynamic.
Oh, interesting.
In his favor.
In his favor, okay.
It's a classic negotiation tactic, and it can be incredibly effective.
So it's more than just a personality quirk. It's actually a strategic move.
Right.
The analysis even uses the term anchoring to describe this. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, anchoring is basically when you set a really high bar at the beginning and you try to frame the entire negotiation around your own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So by bringing up his perceived successes and Zelenskyy's perceived failures, Trump is basically anchoring the conversation around, his own strength and authority.
Interesting.
It's a way to kind of limit Zelenskyy's options and make him more likely to accept a deal that favors Trump.
Wow, that's pretty insightful. It makes you wonder if Trump is just naturally like this or if there's a whole calculated strategy behind his seemingly chaotic approach.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest. Trump's personality definitely plays a role, but there's also this very clear understanding of negotiation tactics at play here.
Yeah, for sure. So how does Zelenskyy handle this? I mean, the analysis kind of paints him as much more diplomatic.
Yes, much more reserved.
Reserved, yeah.
Zelenskyy's approach is very different.
Okay.
He's calm, he's focused,
right.
Avoids direct confrontation.
Okay.
The analysis suggests he's emphasizing the need for security and support for Ukraine, but he's doing it in a way that tries to maintain a sense of cooperation.
I see, but wouldn't that kind of be a disadvantage when you're dealing with someone as aggressive as Trump? I mean, is there a risk that Zelenskyy might be losing the upper hand by not pushing back harder?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that the analysis dives into.
Okay.
Imagine going into a poker game.
Okay.
And just showing your cards too early.
Oh.
You've given the other player information they can use to their advantage.
Yeah.
So in a negotiation, appearing too eager to make a deal or being too accommodating can signal weakness.
Oh, okay.
And give the other side the upper hand.
So Zelenskyy's diplomatic style, while admirable, might actually be working against him in this particular situation.
That's one possible interpretation.
Right.
And it's a point that the analysis raises for debate. It highlights the potential downsides of Zelenskyy's approach.
Right.
Suggesting that he might be giving up too much ground without securing enough in return. Yeah, it's a very delicate balancing act.
Right.
Zelenskyy is clearly trying to secure the best possible outcome for Ukraine.
Of course, yeah.
But he's also dealing with, a very unpredictable and assertive counterpart.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if this whole good cop, bad cop dynamic is just part of Trump's playbook.
That's certainly a possibility.
Right.
The analysis suggests that Trump might be using this aggressive style to deliberately, throw Zelenskyy off balance.
Okay.
Making him more likely to accept a deal that's favorable to Trump.
Okay, so we've talked about Trump's style, but what about the substance of their conversation? What were they actually negotiating?
Well, the analysis digs into the specific points that both sides raise.
Okay.
They were discussing things like long-term security guarantees for Ukraine,
Okay.
military support, economic aid, even access to raw materials.
Wow.
Zelenskyy was clearly pushing for some concrete commitments from Trump,
I see.
particularly on the security guarantees.
All right, did he manage to secure any, significant concessions? The analysis mentions Zelensky's willingness to compromise. Was he too accommodating?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The analysis highlights a key moment where Zelenskyy seems to concede on the issue of territorial integrity,
Oh, wow.
suggesting a willingness to accept a deal that might involve territorial concessions to Russia.
Wow, that's a huge concession. It makes you wonder if Zelensky's diplomatic approach might be backfiring. Is he giving up too much without getting enough in return?
That's a valid concern, and it's something the analysis encourages us to really think critically about.
Okay.
I mean, on the one hand, compromise is essential in any negotiation,
Yeah.
right? You have to be willing to give a little to get a little.
Right, right.
But on the other hand, it's crucial to make sure that any concessions you make are balanced by reciprocal gains.
So did Zelensky strike that balance? Did he make the right choices for Ukraine? What do you think?
Well, the source material doesn't actually offer a definitive answer.
Okay,
And that's kind of what makes this whole situation so fascinating. It's complex,
for sure.
with valid arguments to be made on both sides.
Right. The analysis does mention Trump's justification for his aggressive style. He basically argues that, being tough and uncompromising is the only way to get results, especially in a situation like this.
Yes. The analysis delves into that justification.
Okay,
Trump frames his behavior as strength and decisiveness,
okay.
and he contrasts it with what he sees as the weakness and indecision of, past administrations.
Right, right.
It's a recurring theme in his rhetoric.
Yeah.
And it plays into the self-image as a strong leader who can cut through the BS and get things done.
But is that justification genuine? Or is it just a way to mask, a more domineering and self-serving approach?
Yeah.
It's like that time my friend was trying to sell me his old car, and he kept saying things like, take it or leave it, this is the best deal you're going to get.
Oh, yeah.
It felt more like pressure tactics than genuine negotiation.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of critical thinking when we're analyzing these situations.
Yeah.
We can't just take things at face value.
Right.
We need to consider the motivations behind the words, the potential biases,
Right.
the desired outcomes.
So what's the takeaway here? How can we apply this insight to our own lives? We're not all negotiating international treaties,
Right.
but we all face situations where we need to advocate for ourselves and our interests.
Absolutely. Understanding those dynamics of power and persuasion can be incredibly valuable in any negotiation.
Right.
Whether it's a salary negotiation,
Yeah.
or a debate with your partner, or even just trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding those underlying dynamics.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff.
Uh,
But let's get back to Zelenskyy. The analysis does point out some of his strengths in this conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. One thing the analysis highlights is Zelensky's unwavering focus on securing those long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. Even amidst Trump's, shall we say, unconventional approach, Zelenskyy kept bringing the conversation back to that core objective.
That's interesting. It seems like he was playing the long game there, recognizing that, securing those guarantees is crucial for Ukraine's future.
Exactly. And the analysis also points out his willingness to compromise on other issues, which, as we've discussed, is a key element of any successful negotiation.
Right. But there's that fine line between strategic compromise